In this hour with the Inspector General of Police Usman Alkali Baba, who has called off Enugu State's new operation called Operation Restore Peace in an effort to control rising insecurity in the southeast region. The event took place earlier this year at the Michael Okpara Square in the capital, and the state's governor Ifeanyi Owain was in attendance. Well, this comes almost 2 days after the Independent National Electoral Commission attacks where properties were set on fire by unknown gunmen. In April, 2 policemen were killed in a police station ambush in the area, which has raised concerns over the constant assault on security infrastructure.
The Operation RP in Enugu today is the first in the line of our strategic action plan to restore peace across the country, and in the coming days, the special operation will be extended to other parts of the country to address peculiar crimes, including banditry, kidnapping, and armed robbery in all the other geopolitical zones. I charge you to henceforth, defend yourselves courageously against any armed group that attempt to attack you.
It is in consonance with this to put a stop to criminalities, changing the narratives to what the Igbo man is, rather than the wrong perception.
In the past weeks, we've been saddened by the spate of killing of security personnel in their line of duty and destruction of security infrastructure, as well as assets of other public institutions in Nigeria, particularly in the Southeast zone. The civilian population have also not been spared the crimes of robbery and kidnapping. It is our expectation that this occasion will herald the rejigging and retooling of the internal security architecture in the Southeast geopolitical zone to bring it up to speed the emerging dimensions of criminality.
We have decided to come and launch Operation Restore Peace. I hereby launch the operation with a view to restore peace in the whole of the Southeast. Our deployment covers all the states in the Southeast, and the operation will simultaneously take place in all the Southeast.
Well, for more, let's turn to our RISE News analyst, Dr. Sam AMADI. He's an associate professor of law at the Base University here in Abuja. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
That's a really heavy-weighted order by the Inspector General of Police. You know, I mean, the security crisis, the security situation in Southeast Nigeria is at a crescendo that cannot, you know, be contained again or is not acceptable. But for the Inspector General to order outright shooting of culprits, is that not taking, you know, his powers too far?
At least it's not really power. I think it's even worse than a war situation. You saw the Israeli and Hamas conflict. These are designated combatants, enemy combatants. This is a war, but still the state of Israel had to take precaution, targeted attack, text messages to take off civilian targets. So even in war, the laws of war do not require you to shoot at a site, okay? Now this is criminality, like I said, very serious warring criminality. And essentially, the problem with criminality is that only people are always involved. For example, if you look at SBM data, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've been increasing killing of police officers across the country, southwest, southeast, south. In fact, the data is surprising. That's a complex criminality that should be properly investigated, and those who are responsible punished severely according to law. Now, but when you now give a directive, and then the dangerous part of it is the statement that says, forget human rights. The allegations about human rights will come to me. Who will decide it? I will decide it. So basically, this is like official state order for what we call state violence against a zone. In fact, Nigerian citizens. Again, the idea of policing and law enforcement is to protect lives and property of the citizens. So
not
when
to
you
take their lives.
When you now premise law enforcement on taking life indiscriminately, people forget that the Constitution only allows you to take life in limited circumstance through a court judgment, duly passed, or when people are attacking other persons or attacking property. So if you see a so-called unknown gunman about to shoot at a police officer, you can take him out in self-defense. That's allowed by law. But you can't give an order. For example, there are many casualties all over the week. A young man I know very well was driving through a roadblock. He didn't see the checkpoint. He said, stop. It was too late. They killed him on the spot. Now, that's a killing that is clearly state murder. State killing citizens. But this kind of order kind of authorizes, it's like a carte blanche to police officers to basically kill anybody.
But Prof, Mr. President, some months ago, because of the spate of insecurity, the rising banditry, terrorism and the rest, gave a similar order that anybody seen with AK-47 should be put down. What's the difference?
The point is very wrong. I mean, wrong, because possession of AK-47 is an offense that is an offense that requires trial. See, Nigeria is becoming a terror state, and that's, you are fighting terror with terror. And in the last 5 years or 6 years, we've not succeeded anywhere with maximum state violence. It's when a state is indiscriminate in killing, in the pretext of preventing crime, it becomes state terror. That's not law enforcement. We used to watch television. We like to talk about the US and over the world. You see, they're taking investment in tracking a criminal. They can use a helicopter, follow through, and they trap the criminal. You see people who even shoot public shooting, and the state invest in carefully
investigating the shootings.
Arresting them. So why can you kill people? How can you say anyone with AK-49? Suppose it's a licensed AK-49. How do you know? Can you know AK-49 that's licensed on the basis of who possesses it?
With such an order.
The president's speech is reckless and totally illegal.
Okay, so beyond the president's statement, we know that insecurity has become so rife in recent times, and this particular attack on security agents and agencies, especially in the southern part of the country, is becoming more rampant. And of course, it looks like the government at the center has to do something about it. But my concern is that we've not been able to identify, at least it seems like we've not been able to find the root cause of this increase in the attacks of security men, especially policemen. Shouldn't we be looking in that direction so that way we can provide a solution from the bottom instead from the top?
That's the point. Now, you don't solve that problem by this kind of directive. For example, today, we don't even know, you talk about unknown government, we don't even know who is involved, we don't even know the identity of the persons, we've not even seen, why can't we arrest them? By the way, why can't we foster, look at the way police stations are being invaded and destroyed. It tells a story of lack of protection for even the police themselves. So clearly, everybody knows that once police becomes a target of killing and violence, then you are down to breakdown of law and order. So I would support the IG and the president that we should do everything to prevent, number one, and prosecute any person who kills any person who kills a police officer has verged at the limit of criminality. And no society should, in fact, it's a measure of state failure if police institutions and facilities are easy target for this kind of brigandage. But the point then is, if we are scandalized into acting like bandits ourselves, you see, that's a measure of state failure. Lack of rule of law. So the Nigerian state is indistinguishable from the Nigerian bandits. If they're going to kill like the bandits, if you're going to tell people the only way to defend yourself is just kill anybody, that's banditry. So the point I'm making is that, look, a state is defined by the capacity to do discriminate violence, organized violence, rule-based violence, meaning the state arrests people, prosecute them, and deal with them. The state should not be terrified into acting like an armed robber, a highway robber. The state should be a state that discriminates between criminals and non-criminals and say, you know what, you have to be decisive, effective, go after these bandits, these criminals, but protect the people. So what we have seen in the Southeast is a siege.
Okay.
A siege, people under siege. And so this statement creates an inducement for further destruction of lives and liberty of the people.
Dr. AMADI, let's not forget that in the last week or so, 14 policemen have been killed in different states across the country. I know there's some in Akwa Ibom, some in Rivers State, and some in Enugu State as well. So now, how can we protect the police who's supposed to protect the ordinary citizen while, you know, securing themselves and, you know, avoid this from happening any further. Because if not, like you have said, it would lead to a breakdown of law and order if the police cannot even be sure of their own safety, so that way they cannot protect the citizens. So we're not even safe at all.
State governors ought to play a key role here. Community leaders. You see, the problem with this insecurity is that they have destroyed community governance. In the past, by the way, the Southeast zone was the safest zone by UNDP report as at 2015-14. Okay, what went wrong? Police brutality, lack of effective governance by the state government, decision of local government and town union. For example, the Southeast has unorganized vigilante system based on town unions. Now, because the government in the Southeast, governors themselves have become less legitimate, they can't even, you know, mobilize their people to protect. It's our responsibility to protect police and security institutions because they work for us. But what we have seen in Nigeria is a complex problem of insecurity fueled by collapse in governance, collapse in social trust, unfair governance, injustice. We've seen the previous guest talked about no federal governance. Basically, it's a hyperbole about the lack of effective governance. The fact that the state is like ungoverned space. And so what we are seeing now is a cumulative effect of these complexities of lack of governance everywhere. I feel so pained that if you go to a place like Owerri now, where you can stay till midnight, stay 2 o'clock, by 5 o'clock people are rushing to go home because in the next few hours you see staccato of bullets are going everywhere. People are
Rivers had to declare a state of
exactly.
like a curfew.
Why are we in this kind of pandemic of insecurity? I'm interested in investigating what's the cause and dealing with it, but I'm not in support of government creating more insecurity by terrifying citizens by statements that tell them, look, by the way, let's not forget, Nigerians can kill themselves. People can even report those who are not anything. So there's a seeming sense of anarchy brewing, which means that people themselves would feel like, look, we can be victims of state's terror, or even our neighbors can owe us in. So I'm really worried at loss of life. I'm really worried at insecurity becoming much more, you know, complex by virtue of this kind of order. So this is not a case to reduce the criminality of killing police. This is not a case to reduce the urgency of doing something to stop that virus. It's a dangerous virus that police people are afraid of. In fact, police officers feel frightened to wear police uniform. And I argue that where police officers are not dressing nondescript to evade, you know, criminals, that's the meaning of total collapse of law and order. So we should be very concerned that we should protect the police, we should get the equipment, and police should fight and neutralize all these criminal elements. But then there should be no mistake of authorizing the police to kill indiscriminately. And that's why the IG should withdraw and countermand that directive and tell the police, go after these criminals, but respect human rights.
Absolutely. Human rights very important as enshrined in the Constitution. Dr. Sam AMADI, for your in-depth analysis, we say thank you for joining us.
Thank you.